We are in week 10. We're going to talk about multimedia. We just watched Action Movie Kid Volume 2, which shows you how anybody with a little webcam can do Hollywood-style movie special effects, and you could do it with some software called After Effects. So I think that's the software that's being used there. I think Adobe has After Effects, and then Apple has something similar. So, kind of amazing what you could do. First thing I'll show you about multimedia, as you're all starting to settle in and realize I'm talking, is I'm going to show you Google Fonts. Alright, so just like really is hard for me to talk when somebody else is talking, Mike. Because it's like my brain stops wanting to say words and start listening to other people's words. So if you guys need to talk, go outside because you're in college now and you get to do what you want. Because otherwise it's just hard for me. You want to talk? Go outside. Cool. So Google Fonts. So let's say that Halloween's coming up, right? Like this is pretty good Halloween font. So I'm going to add that to my collection. And then I could search up here, right there, Halloween. And there's that, which is like another kind of Halloween stuff. So maybe I'll click on that and see what that is. Available from these external foundries. I don't want to go external. So maybe I'll go with Spook. Spooky. So there's Spooky. And that maybe is external. I don't want to go to external. Well, I could also just look at handwriting and see what I have for handwriting. And I have it set to trending. What is trending right now? And I could scroll through these and I could find different fonts that I might want to use. I don't know how you'd find Halloween or spooky here. But I already have that one, which is kind of Halloween-y. And so right here I could just click download. And I downloaded that font. And it's called Nosifier. Okay? So I'm going to go into Microsoft Word. And I'll create a blank document. And then inside Microsoft Word, I'll say Halloween party. All right. And I'll look for a font, and I'm looking for that Nosifier font. It's not going to be here because I haven't installed it yet. But NE, Noteworthy, Nueva, no Nosifier. Okay. So I'm going to now install this font, double click it, open it, and TTF, and I just hit install font. TTF. So I just installed that font. How many people already know this? Oh, cool. But it's new for some people. And then I'll come up here and I'll see if Nosifier exists. Some programs will pick up if there's a new one, others won't. Microsoft Word does not. There's no Nosifier. So I'm just going to close this. And then start it again. And hopefully in starting it refreshes its list. And now let's look for Nosifier. Nosifer. Isn't that cool? That's super cool. And so now you could use all these crazy fonts from Google Fonts to make your documents look better. Google Fonts is the best place to get fonts because it's built by Google. And Google is soon going to run the world more than they already do. But if it comes from Google, that's like almost as good as coming from somewhere else, which I'm not going to say because I don't want to offend anybody's religious sentiments. So that's that's using and installing your own font. And what we're going to talk about today is multimedia. And multimedia is mini media. And so in the past, we were cavemen, and we had like sticks, and we drew on the cave walls with berry juice maybe. I don't know how they got their colors, right? So that was like, okay, that's one thing. And then we invented the printing press. Or before that, then we invented like a writing system, and we chiseled it into stone and then some paper, right? And then if people wanted a book, you'd have to copy the book by hand, and there could be maybe hand-drawn illustrations in the books. There weren't pictures. Camera hadn't been invented yet. And then we came up with a printing press, and the printing press allowed the mass production of books. And again, still no pictures, but text and illustrations could be in the books. And then that led to the first information revolution, and within a short period of time after the invention of the printing press, we had a flourishing in the arts and the sciences. We had the Renaissance, we had the scientific revolution, because now people had more readily were able to access information because books could be made more easily. And then after the printing press, then we start to see things like the camera, right? And I'm not sure when the camera was invented. I guess there's some Old West photos, so in the 1800s, 1850s. And then we got movies in like the early 1900s, but there's no sound. So we had moving images, but no sound. And the founder of Warner Brothers was like, who wants to hear actors talk? Nobody wants to hear actors talk. You know? And then we got movies with sound, so we're combining images, moving images, and sound. And we have photographs now in our books. And then we got television, which is more readily able to distribute moving pictures. And so there's not only the media, but also the medium. So the media might be text, it might be pictures, it might be moving pictures, and the medium is how do we distribute that? Newspapers, movie theaters, television. Television can distribute text, it could distribute moving images, it could distribute sound. So we have the media and the medium. And then along comes the internet. And now and cell phones. And now any of us could like make movies and use Adobe After Effects and do these incredible special effects. And we could distribute it on the medium of YouTube or the internet. And so multimedia is how do we bring all that stuff together? How do we create that stuff? What's going on behind it? What's the different software we use to create it? What are the different medias? From font, now you know Google Fonts, you could go get a different font, to pictures. How are pictures taken? How do you work with pictures, edit pictures? To doing layout and documents and preparing something for being published, or to putting moving images in it and editing those movies. And what do you encode it to? What file type do you encode it to? So that's multimedia. It's kind of fascinating. So I don't think that picture is relevant anymore. So with pictures, what do you want to know about digital cameras, right? Like, yeah.
So like Casey Neistat calls his videos movies, are they considered movies?
Sure. Yeah, moving images. You like Casey Neistat? Yeah. Cool. I like his videos. I think he does a good job. Nice production quality, nice production value. So talk first about pictures. So a picture has resolution, and the resolution is how many pixels wide by how many pixels high. And so when you use a digital camera, it has some way of taking the light and converting that to digital information. And there's a charged coupling device, I think it's called. So Canon, Costco, Canon 80D charge coupling device, CCD, charge coupled device. Just looking to see if any of that comes up with CCD. It's now just called a CCD sensor. CCD sensor. And so that sensor is the way that it takes the light that comes in through the lens and turns it into digital information. And so it's storing different pixels at some resolution. And in your camera, you could say how high of a resolution do you want to store, and what kind of file format do you want to store your image as. So if you, so JPEG is a smaller file size than RAW. If you store it as RAW, it's storing all of the pixel information. And if you store it as JPEG, it's compressing it down some. And so we have different compression algorithms, or codecs, compression, decompression algorithm. And like JPEG, GIF, PNG, BMP, TIFF, RAW, those are all different types of file formats for pictures. And we use a codec, a compression, decompression algorithm, to compress the raw information down to a smaller file size. And so bitmap is mapping bits. And so all of these are bitmap. I'm just checking those. All these are bitmaps. So each bit, each 0 and 1 is mapped to some location. And then we'd have a bit depth, just like with our monitor. So each pixel, how many 0s and 1s do we store? Different color combinations. You remember when we talked about monitors? They had resolution, and then they had bit depth, and how many 0s and 1s for each pixel are stored. And so bitmapped images are really good for images like this, like a flower with a lot of shades, because you get gradations in color. And it's a vector image as opposed to bitmap would be good for something like this, right? So just kind of like a drawing where you don't have as many shades of color is good for a vector image. But with a bitmap, you could save it at different quality, different compressions. And so higher compression means more data and better image. Lower compression, higher quality means better image, more data. Lower quality means worse image, less data. So you could set your compression level with some of them. And some of those are lossy compression and some are lossless. So lossy is you lose the data when you compress it. You can't get it back. Lossless is you don't lose the data. There's no loss. You could always uncompress it and get the original file back. So those are bitmap images, and that's compared to vector images. And a vector image is more like this, and it's just a drawing. And there's another vector. Maybe that's a PNG with transparency. But here's vector images, so there's a vector image. So when we work with software like Photoshop, and I'm just thinking here. So I'm going to put my camera on to selfie mode and turn it around. And then this is kind of a nice matte. And I'll just get down a little bit. And I'll take my photo. I got to figure out where my lens is. And then take my photo. Lighting? Why? Why do I need lighting? So I've got a couple of photos there. And I'm not sure what happened. My head looks really small. But let's see if I could get those photos. And I'll continue this in the next video because there's private information I don't want you to see.